Well, welcome to episode 95 of the Family Answer Man podcast. Today we're talking about when you're married to someone who has a history of unstable relationships from a biblical worldview on the Family Answer Man podcast. I am David Orgis, and I am joined by Dr. Mark Crosby, pastor, educator, marriage and family therapist, and the resident expert here on the Family Answer Man podcast. Now, this podcast is not a therapy session. We're not able to give specific advice to your situations, but we do believe that mental and spiritual health are serious issues. So if you have questions, we encourage you to seek professional help, professional counsel that can give you some specific answers to your questions. Before we jump in, if you would hit that notification bell so you never miss a episode of the Family Answer Man. And if you're listening via podcast, go ahead and rate us and review us on your favorite podcast app. That really helps us out a lot. It gets us to the top of everybody's feed. And you can help grow the Family Answer Man community by sharing this show with your friends and family so they can join you on your journey of building stronger, healthier, happier families. Well, Dr. Mark, good to be here with you today.
Yes.
We have a marriage question, and so this is our second marriage question in a row,
Right.
Which is a good thing. I think we all need to be aware of and focused on the issues that we face in marriage.
That's correct.
When we look at marriage, do you find that there's a certain time period that is the most difficult time in a marriage? I know there's a book that I usually, when I do premarital counseling with people, I give them, it's the most important year in a man's life and in a woman's life, and it talks about the first year of marriage. Right. Do you find that that's a particularly stressful time? Or?
Well, I think a lot's going on during that time, and that is you're trying to figure out who you are as a husband and who you are as a wife. This is the first time in most cases you've entered into that role, if you will. And even if this is the second or third time, there's still some things you're still learning from the last time. Yeah. And so the reality is that it's a unique role. And if, again, this is your second or third marriage, the reality is this is your first time to be married, in most cases, to this person. So meeting their needs, meeting their desires, and following up, what is important as a couple. So all this is very important. So I'll argue that, most people will take the position the first 6 months of marriage is marital bliss. Everybody's excited. It's new. We are together. We've been looking forward to this, for weeks or months or years perhaps. And now here we are, husband and wife. But after the 6th month, then the reality of life begins to kick in for a lot of couples. Where do we live? What career are we going to pursue? Are we going to finish that degree? Are we going to buy that new car? Are we going to start saving money? Are we going to start spending more money? How deep in debt do we get? And the list could go on. And sometimes there's a differing opinion concerning what to do as far as spending our money. Do we rent? Do we buy? Do we start a family right away? Do we wait a couple of years? And so all of these decisions now are coming into the marital system, and now they're trying to figure out what is going to be the best answer.
Right.
So sometimes there will be a difference of opinion, and sometimes conflict will occur because one may want to wait to have children, one may want to have children right away. One may want to buy, one may want to rent. And so now we have this conflict going on, and how you manage that conflict is very, very important. And that usually occurs after the 6th month, maybe after the first year or so, but definitely within the first 2 years.
Yeah, and just listening to you list that those things off that you just went through, you can tell, even if you're not in the middle of that situation, just hearing the list, you can almost feel the stress that that is weighing on them.
No doubt.
So, we're going to get to our question for today, but if you want to get your question read on the Family Answer Man, have us address it, we would love to do that. You can email us familyanswerman@liveoak.church. That's familyanswerman@liveoak.church. And the question that comes in today says this. It says, I've been married for 6 months, and it seems that the woman that I dated is not the woman that I'm married to. She's mean, critical, impulsive, no longer interested in what she said that she liked. My life is a roller coaster as she overreacts on everything. This is not how it was in the beginning, by the way, and I'm her 4th husband. Wow. And we are in our mid-30s. So please help.
Wow. So part of the practice that we have here is basically called family forensics. And that's a unique area of practice in dealing with family dynamics and trying to figure out what's going on with the family. And this is usually done for the courts. So with that being said, I cannot diagnose this person because I have not met her or seen her. But I can speak in general terms as to what forensically sounds like may be going on.
Okay.
And generally what happens when you deal with someone who has a history of unstable relationships, this person writes in that he's the fourth husband, I believe, and they're both in their 30s.
That's what it sounds like.
And that's a lot. That's a lot of instability in many cases. Again, we're just guessing a little bit of conjecture going on, but that's a lot. Number one. Number two, the fact that he mentions the fact that she's not the same person, that she was perhaps opposite of what he just described early on in the relationship, maybe nice, sweet, amicable, gracious and all this, and now she's mean, critical, and so forth. And so what this describes forensically in some cases is a personality disorder, specifically a borderline personality disorder. So again, I'm going to speak in very general terms here because a borderline personality disorder is marked by unstable relationships.
Okay.
These individuals who have this type of personality disorder have a history of instability when it comes to relationships. Very few close friends, very few long-term or long-lasting friendships. Number one. Number two, they fall into areas of life way too quickly. In other words, they move in together right away. Or they get married after 3 weeks of knowing each other or whatever. They're often called high-octane individuals when it comes to relationships. Thirdly, they have strong emotional reactions. In other words, immediately they can say after the first date, I love you. Or after 2 weeks of marriage, I hate you. Because small things seem to evoke these strong reactions in their life. So if they ask you to go by the store and get a gallon of milk and somewhere, some way, somehow you forget, now all of a sudden you hate them, you never listen to them, you never consider them, you never take them seriously. And so they have these very strong reactions to what most of us would call a minor indiscretion. I forgot to buy the milk. I got, low fat instead of, 3% fat or whatever. And so, but they consider these things to be such, great, problems that they just really overreact. Most borderline personalities have a distorted view of themselves and they have a distorted view of their relationships. In other words, they may be very intelligent, but think of themselves as being, moronic. They may be in a really good, healthy relationship, but think it's not enough. So they have this distorted view of themselves and of their relationship. They may be very young and athletic, if you will, in their build, and they may think of themselves as being old and out of shape or whatever. Okay. Next, they have a fear of abandonment. And this is the key, cornerstone of the borderline personality. They fear that those that they care about or love or who care about them or love them are going to abandon them. That could be a spouse, that could be a parent, that could be a child, but they fear of being abandoned and left aside. And this fear of abandonment basically controls a lot of their decisions, a lot of how they treat their relationships, etc. And next, they have this real disconnect relationally that creates this very deep emotional pain. In other words, the relational disconnect they may experience from a broken relationship, a lost engagement, a divorce, a serious fight in their marriage. Any relational disconnect causes them deep pain, meaning simply this. Whereas most people would get over something in a few days or a few weeks, the person with this type of personality disorder, the borderline personality, it may take them months or years to get past a relational disconnect. And they have this extreme emotional pain, whereas some people will get saddened by the fact that, hey, things didn't work out, or, hey, we just had to go our separate ways. We just weren't compatible. They will see it as a end of the world devastating moment and just have this deep depressed feeling and this sense of deep emotional pain. Next, these individuals feel empty, and they don't know what they want from life. They don't know what they want in the relationship. They know they want a relationship, but they don't know what they want from it, or what to get out of it, or how to make it better. They don't know what they want from a relationship. They don't know what they want from life. If you ask them, where do you want to go? Where do you want to be? What kind of career path do you want to choose? What do you believe in? They're not quite sure. They don't know what they want from life. And so because of this, it's very difficult to connect.
Yeah, it sounds like it caused a lot of difficulty.
Oh, all the way around. And so they're very difficult to connect with, very difficult to form an attachment with. And even though some try, and this gets into our next point, that this person is writing it about how confused he is about this relationship.
Right.
And so they bring a lot of confusion into a relationship, number one, because in the beginning, and this is perhaps what happened to this person, if I'm correct, in the beginning, they will love bomb you. They will love bomb you in the beginning. And they'll say things like, "You're the only one who completes me." And they'll tell you of the past trauma and how terrible everybody's been to them in their life. And what that does is, for some men, that activates the white knight inside of a good guy.
Absolutely right.
Okay?
I'm the hero.
I'm the hero.
Everybody.
I want to be the white knight. I want to do for you what no other man has done. I want to give you the security and the stability. I'm the white knight. All these other men left you high and dry. All these other men were unkind to you. All these other men abused you. But I'm the white knight, and I'm going to come in and save the day. And so because she says things like, "Well, you're the only one that has ever understood me. You're the only one who's ever been good to me. You're the only one who's ever protected me." Again, that activates the white knight inside of most good men.
Yeah.
And so what she's saying is, and this is, again, a really big red flag. And so men, if you're listening to this, please pay attention. She needs you to rescue her. Beware. Warning, Will Robinson.
Danger, Will Robinson.
Beware of when the woman in your life needs to be rescued. And so if you're hearing this, I'm just going to believe that God wants you to hear this, and this is for you.
Yeah, and that's it plays into, especially for a man, the deep-seated desire to need to rescue somebody. But especially when you're getting into a relationship, there's a temptation to feel good about being the one that rescues, but really we should be getting into healthy relationships with healthy people.
Exactly.
And there are going to be times that we do rescue each other and that we're helpful to each other and that we do fill in the gaps and help each other grow. But if you're the white knight, then you're not getting into a balanced, healthy relationship.
Again, there's nothing wrong with helping someone. There's nothing wrong with rescuing someone. But beware of rescuing someone for the sake of being in a intimate relationship.
Yeah.
So again, if she needs to be rescued again and again and again, beware of that. Because here's the thing. She will bomb you with all kinds of affection. She will bomb you with all kinds of attention. She'll bomb you with affection, attention, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so this is very important to understand, because what happens is once she has bombed you with this affection, this attention, then she'll want to spend every waking moment with you and want you to spend, of course, every waking moment with her. And when you don't, she'll accuse you then of not caring. And then she'll make you prove again whether or not you're the real deal as far as being the real white knight. And then after you have rescued her and she's basically feels like she's been rescued, you've proven that you're the hero, then she'll begin to devalue you. And then she becomes critical of you. And she then devalues your family of origin, your friends. She devalues, your motives, your loyalty, all these things. And then you're going like, what just happened here? I just rescued her. I just saved her. I just, she had this abusive ex-boyfriend and now she's living with me and I'm protecting her. But for some reason, she begins to devalue me. And what happens is that these women have a pattern. They have a pattern of being rescued. And once the rescue is complete and she feels like she's in a good place, then she'll begin to devalue the person, becoming critical of them.
Which leads back to what you talked about of being confused in the relationship and the disconnect that happens.
Right. And this was happening to the person who wrote in this question. She's not the person that I married, or the person that I was dating is not the person that I married or that he was dating. And so anyway, what happens is she starts pulling away. And then as she starts pulling away, she begins to accuse you of cheating, not being a real man, not providing enough, not doing enough, not caring enough, not loving enough. And so she begins to really devalue who you are as a person. And she begins to really devalue what it is that you feel is important. So anyway, and then what happens is this, she makes everything feel like it's your fault. You're to blame for her sadness. You're to blame for her feeling of inadequacy. You're to blame for the fact that she doesn't have the self-esteem. You're to blame that she didn't get the job. You're to blame that her car is out of gas. And the list could go on until she makes you apologize. And then when you finally apologize, then again, she wants you to now meet all of her expectations, though she is chronically dissatisfied. So the reality is this person brings lots of confusion into a relationship. And as this person who wrote in, this guy who wrote in, is discovering, these individuals are tough to live with.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Because no matter what you do, it's never enough. No matter what you do, they find fault. No matter what you do, they're critical. No matter what you do, it's your fault. And so this person finds it very difficult to live with this type of individual. So the question many ask is, how do people develop like this? I mean, how do you become a borderline personality disordered person?
Right.
How do you develop this type of personality disorder? And as we said before, most personality disorders are basically inherited. It's a strong genetic component. Depending on what researcher you talk with and listen to and subscribe to or read, some will argue that most personality disorders basically are developed because you have inherited it, and that's in 75% of the cases.
Wow.
75% of your disorder is based on your genetics, according to some researchers. And so, again, look at your family history. Look and see what kind of mental health or mental illness was in your family. Did your mother, did your grandmother, have problems in relationships? Did your mom have 9 marriages, kind of thing, And if so, that's something to think about and consider in your own life as far as, forensically speaking, did I inherit some of these unstable traits? Number 2, they have difficulty regulating stress. So when they get stressed out and when stress begins to take over their life, they have a hard time regulating it. And so they have this fight or flight, all the time, always wanting to push back, always wanting to fight, always wanting to blame, always wanting to run away if the fight doesn't work, always wanting to go to someone else, always needing rescuing. And so they have difficulty regulating stress. And what happens is they will get the white knight to de-stress them, if you will. Take away my stress. Take away the problem. Take away the person who is abusing me. Take away the person who is demanding of me. Take away the person who says I owe them money. And so they have a difficulty at regulating stress. Thirdly, they're oversensitive to negative stimuli. So the moment, again, you say, I'm sorry, I can't go there. Or I'm sorry, I can't do that. Or I have to work late. Or, hey, we have to change plans. They struggle now and become overly sensitive to negative stimuli. And they say things like, well, you never loved me. You never wanted to go. You never cared. You never. It's always your fault. My last boyfriend, at least he would do this. My first husband, at least he would do that. And so you have this constant comparison because they're overly sensitive to negative stimuli. Next, they have struggled with trauma. Most people with borderline personality disorder have a history, maybe within their family, of lots of trauma. In other words, maybe their parents fought all the time. Maybe their first marriage was extremely abusive. Maybe they were abandoned as a child. Maybe they grew up in foster care. And there was a lot of just instability and trauma in their life. And there's this need, therefore, to be rescued. Most of these people want to be rescued. Most of these people want and need, to have this sense of, I need somebody to be in my life. I need somebody to help me in life. I need somebody to do for me in life what I cannot do for myself. So the question is, so what can this person do?
Right.
Well, what can this husband do? I mean, he's married 6 months, and he's saying already after 6 months, or ever how long it's been, that my wife is not the person that I married.
Right.
She's a different person. So again, the first thing I would say is therapy does help.
Okay.
And again, a lot of people, maybe even listening to our program, maybe still has stigma when it comes to therapy. They have stigma when it comes to getting help. But I really believe that if you want this marriage to work, you have to recognize and realize that a borderline personality disorder is simply that it is a disorder. It is something that, again, is going to cause problems. It's going to stop the flow of a good relationship in your life. And your choices are, end it or mend it.
Yeah.
Okay. And so if you're going to mend this relationship, one approach is to find a cognitive behavioral therapist.
Okay, and cognitive behavioral therapy.
Cognitive behavioral therapist, basically this. Again, what they do is they will begin to help this person with the borderline personality disorder begin to think differently. It will help them, challenge them, encourage them, coach them, work with them on how to think differently. That not just because the husband forgot to get the milk, hey, I text you today, get some milk before you come home. And just because he forgot doesn't mean he hates you.
Right.
Doesn't mean he doesn't care. It just means that sometimes people forget. And so little things like that, it helps this person with the personality disorder begin to think differently. And as they think differently, they behave differently.
Right.
And for those of y'all who know your Bible, that's in the scripture.
Right, yeah. CBT is very scriptural.
Yeah, as a person thinks, so they behave. So if you change how a person thinks, you change how a person behaves. Another one very similar to cognitive behavioral is reality therapy. And reality therapy says, hey, look, we're going to look at what needs are needing to be met in your life that are unique, and what can we do to create a way, a relationship, a system, an environment to help you meet those needs. And those needs are very basic. We want to feel loved. We want to feel like we have some power. We want to feel like we have some control over our life. We want to feel like that there is some sense of independence or freedom in our life. We want to feel like that we can have some fun in our life. And so the reality therapist tries to figure out, okay, what's missing in this person's life, and what can we do to meet these needs that are responsible, that are real, and that are right.
Well, it sounds particularly helpful because, like you said a few minutes ago, they have a sense that they feel empty because they don't know what they want from the relationship's life, and it helps them set some goals for that.
Yeah, and then begin to discover, hey, this is what I want from life. This is what I need in my life. This is what's been missing in my life, okay? And so reality therapy helps that. And there's many other good therapies out there, but those two, I will argue, are very helpful for this type of personality disorder. Thirdly, again, prayer and church involvement, I think, is always important. Bringing the Lord into your situation, bringing God into your circumstance, helping this person understand that there is a God who loves you and cares for you, and that his word is real. And if we could just apply the principles of his word and read the Proverbs and begin to let the Proverbs and the Psalms, if nothing else, but other parts of the Bible, of course, any part of the Bible, but the Proverbs and the Psalms are very helpful in helping a person to renew their mind.
Right.
And so the person who struggles with this type of borderline, and the reason why it's called borderline, by the way, just a little sidebar, is that you're on the border of psychosis, which is meaning I'm not sure what is real, and neurosis, which means I'm always nervous, scared as to what may happen, what may go wrong, etc. And so you're on the border of these two. And so prayer and the renewing of your mind and filling your heart and mind with the Word of God helps to, again, lessen this disorder, if you will. Helps to bring some healing into this disorder. So this is very important. Fourthly, mentoring. Sometimes a person who is in this situation, sometimes they can get a lot of help just by looking at couples who are older and who are wiser. how they handle their problems, how they handle their situation, how they handle what's going on. And so they begin to look and basically almost mimic a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
Again, most of these people who have this type of disorder did not see a healthy relationship as far as a couple.
Yeah.
And so they're simply going on either A, what they saw, or B, the trauma that was caused by this very dysfunctional family. And so if you can spend time with a healthy couple, maybe have dinner, once or twice, a month. Maybe, share a hobby. Hey, we're gardening, we are walking, we are fishing, we're boating, we're golfing. We are in a mission group or whatever, and just let this person who's in this healthy relationship mentor the person who's struggling.
Yeah, I heard a great piece of advice says you should never accept advice for somebody that is not already where you want to be. And
right.
So, not seeking advice from friends that are maybe in similar situations
right.
but seeking advice from people that have wisdom,
yeah.
that have done it
yeah.
well, that you can look and say, this is how I want my relationship to be, and model it after this.
Exactly. And I think, unfortunately, churches don't do that enough. I think there was a day when we did.
Yeah.
I think there was a day when the older women would teach the younger women. You see that in the Word of God.
Right.
Where the older women
biblical.
would teach the younger women, how to do certain things that would bring value and bring hope and healing and life into the marriage, into the family. We don't do that as much anymore. But I think we really could and really should, especially in your smaller churches. Any size church for that matter,
yeah.
but churches where there is a close-knit group and where a person can say, hey, look, I'm going to take you under my wing, if you will. I'm going to disciple you. There's a word.
Right, yeah.
And I think we've lost that in our churches. But again, and if your church is not doing that, that's something you might want to think about and pray about. What kind of mentoring program? Years ago, we used to call it Big Brother, Big Sister,
yeah,
kind of thing. But I think, having a Paul Timothy type ministry would be wonderful, especially among the women in our church. If we could have older women mentoring younger women, I think it'd be a blessing. And fifthly, and last of all, would be psychoeducation. Figuring out who you are, figuring out what maybe you may be struggling with, and then recognizing that about yourself, and realizing these are some areas that I need to work on. These are some things that I need to discover and know. These are my weaknesses. Whenever you're in a job interview or maybe another setting, somebody may ask you, so what are your weaknesses? And most people go, well, I don't know if I have any.
I don't have any. Yeah.
I'm not sure what, but knowing the areas where you are weak gives you the opportunity to begin to strengthen those areas and to recognize how they have caused maybe some problems, especially in your history and in your relationship. So again, I would say to this young man, look, I know this is difficult. This is not that uncommon, unfortunately. People are going to change. But again, think about some ways that you can find the help that you need. Talk to your pastor, talk to a counselor, recognize that this is a real diagnosable disorder that does have some characteristics that, again, sound very similar to what you're dealing with, and begin to unpack some of that and get the help that I think would be a blessing to you and to her. Again, you're 6 months in, in this question, you're 6 months into your marriage. A lot can happen if you were to apply some of these principles and just to try to, again, be that husband that she is looking for and help her get through this very difficult part of her life where this disorder is and has been ruining relationships for a long, long time. But maybe by the grace of God, you can be the person that helps her to become the woman that God wants her to be.
There you go. You have it from the Family Answer Man. We want to say, just as a reminder, this is not a therapy session. We don't know your specific circumstances, but we do encourage you to seek professional counsel for your unique circumstances. But we do believe that mental and spiritual health are very, very important. We are praying for you, and we hope that this episode, as always, of the Family Answer Man has encouraged you and inspired you to make changes that will lead to a stronger, healthier, happier family.